A lot of people dream about writing their very first original song, but they don't know where to start. Today I'm going to break down some different approaches that you can try, and also I'm going to walk you through how I created my very first song. Hi everyone, welcome back to Music Mindset Monday. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Vishmi. I'm a singer and a vocal coach based in Melbourne. In last episode, we talked about concept creation, how to come up with an idea and then build your own song with a music producer and a songwriter. So today we're going to build on top of that, but we're going to do a different creative approach in terms of the creation. Now, here's the thing. There is no right or wrong way to start a song. These are some of the main approaches that I thought one can take as a basic step if you are creating your very first song. It can be very overwhelming, so here's a small guide for you so that you can follow along. Different creative approaches to starting a song. Every songwriter has their own path. I want to mention that when you start one approach, it often leads to the next one. So you might begin with one approach, the very first approach, let's say, for example, but then obviously it's going to lead you into your next approach. So here are 4 main ways that you can start a song: instrument first approach, production first approach, lyrics first approach, inspiration first approach. I have to mention, don't get me wrong, you can start with any sort of approach, but these 4 I've seen very common in the industry with many other songwriters, and it's simple, it's easy when you're first starting out. So let's look into the instrument first approach. In this approach, where you just pick an instrument, a guitar or a piano, and you just start playing around until something clicks. Maybe you get a nice chord progression or a really nice riff or a motif that you like, and then you build on top of that. A quick example of people who use this method would be Ed Sheeran and Adele. In many of Adele's songs, she started with some piano chords and then she built the melody before the full production. And Ed's as well, I've seen many times that he just grab his guitar, he's just jamming with some progression or a riff, and then he builds on top of that. So this is very common. And then the second approach, you open up just your favorite music DAW. The DAW means the digital audio workstation. Any software, that means Logic Pro, Ableton, Fruity Loops, Pro Tools, Cubase, so many. There are so much more. Even GarageBand, it's easier than Logic Pro. So you just open up that and then you make a beat, 4-bar chord loop, and then on top of that you build everything else. After you've captured the feel and the vibe, then you go ahead with the melody or the lyrics. You just get on with the production. And the third approach, lyrics first approach. For some people, words comes first. They might write a poem or a diary entry, a journal entry, or even in a notepad. You just write some random words, when you see something. You just get the lyrics out. A good example is Taylor Swift. We know she's a queen of lyrics. She journals lyrics and poetry first, and then many of her songs start as pages of lyrics before being set to music. Another example, Leonard, he would often write long poems and then refine them into songs. So the last one is the inspiration first approach. You just hear something, it comes like a spark. Maybe you hear a dialogue in the movie, maybe you hear a story from a friend, or even a random voice memo in your phone, and that spark decides whether music, melody, or lyrics comes first. A good example is Lady Gaga. She has said some songs start from a single phrase or emotion she scribbled down. In Shallow, that's what she did. She started the whole song from a lyrical phrase. So here are a few approaches that you can take when you start your own song, to create your own song. Let's get into the second half of my video, which is my process with No More. When you're in a creative process, I highly recommend you to give yourself freedom. But also some structure. Because if you're too open, what can happen is then the song keeps shifting. It turns out into this, into that again, into another thing again, and you end up lost in the experiment then. that phase is gonna last a long time. So make sure that you keep your own process with each and every song. So this is my process with Noma. I actually started with inspiration. At the time, I was hearing lots of dance pop songs, and I really love this 80s dance beats. I love the vibe, the style, the groove, everything, and I knew that I wanted to create something similar to the feeling of those songs. Plus, I also wanted to have a more chest dominant song. I knew that it would go hand in hand. I went ahead with that concept. I mentioned earlier, one approach leads into the next approach. That's what happened. So in my case, I think it went from inspiration first and then production. So I just wanted to create the same vibe, so I jumped into Logic Pro and I created a beat and a chord progression. And then I thought about, okay, I have a 4-bar beat loop going on. I was thinking, okay, what I'm gonna do with my song structure, whether I wanted to do a verse, chorus, intro, second verse, chorus, or I wanted to do a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, whether I wanted to have a bridge. So you need to think about that, the song structure. And then I've decided, okay, I'm gonna go with a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a second verse. I wanted to have a bridge, right? I've decided all that. And then I just created that in Logic Pro. Once I had fleshed out the arrangement and started building the whole song, then I came in with the melody and the lyrics. And while I was creating the melody, alongside I was writing the lyrics as well. I found that was easy for me and it was natural as well. Because I'm not native English speaker, it was a bit hard for me to come up with lyrics on my own without a melody. So I find it easy when I'm doing it with a melody. So it could be a different thing for you. When it comes to recording, I took a couple of days to rehearse the melody. I tried different techniques and then I recorded my vocals on my own. Now, I'll be honest, with mixing and mastering, I did get a professional help because I didn't have the right equipment to get it sound polished at the time. And I didn't want to put out a track with a bad mix so then the people can't hear my beautiful music. I just got some help and I did the mixing and mastering. I did a rough mixing though. I did my tracks roughly mixed when I sent the stems to the producer in Sri Lanka, and then I communicated with him how I want the sound to be presented, like certain instruments, how I want the cellos to pop out in certain areas like that. And that's how I did my mixing and mastering. You can do the same thing if you don't know anything about mixing. That's the easiest. But if you have the potential to do that on your own, great, fantastic, go ahead. I'm also trying to experiment with my own mixing and mastering. Let's see how that goes. So once I got the final mastered version, I just created my own lyrics video. It was a very fun project for me. I did it in Canva, the whole thing, and I'll link down my song Nomo in the description so you can give it a listen to see how it came out. The video was a very fun project. I had my partner's help as well. I have to thank him as well. Thanks for taking the photos and helping me out. I mentioned in the last week video as well, I'm signed into Embrek Entertainment label in Sri Lanka, so they helped me out with the streaming and stuff, so I didn't have to do that my own, but it's very easy. I think I'm gonna bring you out a video on how to do that on your own as well. If you're interested, just comment down. And then it was just released into the world. So that's how I navigated through my very first song. I know when I'm explaining like this, it sounds easy, but it's a very tough process. You have your ups and downs, your highs and lows. When you go into the production, you're gonna have mind blocks. You're gonna have moments that you're gonna feel like, okay, it doesn't sound nice. You have to deal with it at that time and just keep going. That's it. That's what I did. I have key takeaways for beginner. First, start with whichever element feels natural. Track, lyrics, melody, or just a raw inspiration that you have, just start. That's what you need. And then second, don't wait for perfection. Get your ideas out, then refine it. And then third is you don't need any fancy equipment. The production part, like the softwares. There are free softwares. I think GarageBand is free if you have a Mac. And I first started my composing when I was in my uni. I had to do film music composition, a subject, which I needed Logic Pro. I didn't have the money at the time. I did use a crack. I know. I was a student, so just use a crack. And then the fourth most important one is finishing a song matters more than making it perfect. So finishing the deadline. You need to set a deadline. Otherwise, you're going to be lost. You're going to be like experimenting so many things instead of releasing the actual song. So these are the key 4 takeaways. Make sure you follow along the approaches. Like you can take any approach and then go ahead to give a structure to your process, to your project, to your song. If you need inspirations, just look up on other artists, how they do it. It's very helpful. And yeah, I think that's how you do a song. In my next Music Monday episode, I'm planning to do a basic rundown of how I produce in Logic Pro. So if that's something that you'd like to see, make sure you stay in the loop and subscribe to the channel. And you can also give a like to my Facebook page, which is Vishmi Kavisha. I post everything related to this channel as well. Until next time then, you take care. Bye.